All right. So, welcome to the Saturday morning call, Thai time. It's evening time in the United States. Um, and that uh, I welcome you all. I'm glad to see you here. Uh, I have been in the hospital with dengue fever, which greatly affected the right lower leg, including huge swelling, redness, almost the leg is wanting to burst out of the skin. And so they kept me in the hospital for 9 days, taking as many as 3 IVs at a time. They looked all over the body for places that they could stick needles to take blood. They took a lot of blood samples. And I knew that I must be getting better about day 6 when they stopped taking so many blood samples. And so they finally let me out at on day 9, but I was nowhere near uh, fit at that time. I was just wanting out of the hospital, basically. But since that time, I've had some recovery. Every time that I sit down to the computer, the leg starts to swell up again. But I've been able to sit for longer periods of time. And so during that time, I have not been taking calls from any students, but now that I'm feeling a bit better, I'm willing to start to take calls again on kind of a limited basis. And the way that I would state it would be that old students have priority only because often the old students, we don't record the calls because we're talking more personal stuff generally. And that uh, also because we're not recording the calls, I can more likely take them on the cell phone when I'm resting in the bedroom. So these are the kinds of things that we can do for new students. Late morning Thai time or early afternoon would be the best time to reach me. And so I'll begin to start taking calls, I guess, starting tomorrow. And that I welcome each one of you. Uh, Today, I would like to get started by talking about one topic which will lead into others. And this is the point is that the teaching of the Buddha was not about a sitting meditation. He did recommend going off to a forest or to a tree or an empty hut and sitting down and bringing mindfulness to the fore, which means to start looking at what's happening right here, right now. Uh, and that basically what this means is to take the opportunity right where you are to start practicing. And yet, Western Buddhism seems to have gotten the idea that your practice of squatting meditation, maybe in a retreat or sitting alone in your room with various pieces of equipment like maybe a Buddha statue or a special cushion and that kind of thing. This is not what the Buddha taught. What the Buddha taught was start watching what's going on. And that I would like to introduce that in the sense of to start watching your language, to start listening to the kind of things that you are hearing. Now, one of the things that I have been noticing when I spend a bit of time on YouTube is that everything seems to have gone into what I would call the superlative. Examples of that is, wow, this will blow your mind. or this is unbelievable, or you won't believe this. Well, if it's incredible, that means that it's not to be believed. So if anybody's, for instance, if you're watching a video and somebody says this is incredible, thing to do is to turn it off, because they're actually announcing to you that they're about to lie to you. Or if this is unbelievable, then don't believe it. If this is going to blow your mind, I mean, your mind is not a sex toy. So don't listen to that kind of stuff. But more important, don't pick up that kind of language that has become common on YouTube. Begin to watch the kind of language. That what I mean by that is to learn to be real, to say things that are true, to not say things that are unbelievable, to not say things that are going to blow your mind. But in fact, there's a word for it. It's called grandiosity. And grandiosity means is that we generally make something bigger than it actually is. Like there must be 1,000,000 people when you know 2 or 3 people. So exaggerating with numbers, exaggerating with our language is something that it seems we have gotten in Western culture quite used to doing. And so what I would actually invite you to do is to start monitoring your language, what you're about to say, so that it comes back to be more actual, more real, more honest, and not use words in superlatives. If you're going to mention a number, mention an accurate number. If you're about to say something, this will blow your mind, then don't blow people's minds. If you're about to say the word incredible, then shut your mouth. Don't say things that are incredible. What you're actually telling people is that you're going to lie to them. So this is a way of learning to practice anapanasati, which is basically the Eightfold Noble Path. And that this bringing mindfulness to the fore, actually the word in Pali is the word sati, and it has the quality of being in the present moment, to become real. And so you can practice this any place, anytime. But often we get caught up in the moment because things are really busy. We're out in the world, and the world is going to be giving us a lot of incredible things, a lot of things that blow our minds, a lot of things that are unbelievable, etc. And so the right way to handle this is, first off, to start spending more time away from the world, to spend less time on the cell phone, less time on YouTube, especially not watching the news, because the news, especially the big news organizations, they're not in it to inform you of really what's going on. Their job is to keep you entertained and keep you watching their stuff. That's why they use words like incredible. But in fact, if they use words like marvelous, if they use things like wonderful, they would lose their audience. There's an old journalistic phrase that says, if it bleeds, it leads. That also, a word that we use in the West would be rubbernecking. What is rubbernecking? That means is that when an accident happens on the road, as we pass by, we want to watch. We're interested in unwholesome things. We're interested in what's wrong. This is what the world is all about. It's broken and needs to be fixed, and it's your job to fix it. You've been trained to see things that way since you were a child. We are ordered around as children, told what to do. And as we grow older, we begin to do that in our own minds, finding something that needs to be fixed, finding things that are broken, finding problems so that we can fix them. And the reality is that things are already okay the way they are. We can go and do stuff, but we can do what we're doing happily because we're entertained by it, as opposed to doing it because we got to do it. So, how can we change that mindset? How can we come out of the world with the language that it uses, that is grandiose, entertaining, wants to keep you engaged and occupied? Well, the thing to do is to start watching what's going on the inside, knowing that what's on the inside has already been greatly, greatly affected by the society and what's going on the outside. That in fact, when we go off into seclusion, the first thing that we recognize is that, yeah, the body's in seclusion. I'm away from all of those people, but I brought them all with me. And so there's two levels then of seclusion. One is to seclude ourselves from the world in a physical way, and then the other one is to seclude ourselves from the world mentally so that we can come back into the reality. Now, how do we recognize reality? Michael, Mikey, I'll give you an opportunity to answer that question. When something is real, how do we know it's real?
Not sure.
Pardon?
Not sure if it's real.
Well, that means that it needs to be revisited. And when something is over and over and over and over the case, it becomes real. Notice that politics in the United States is not real. They move from one event to the next, to the next, to the next, and never get any consistency going. So, another way to answer the question is through observation. In other words, what's real is available to us through our senses. In other words, a hot chili, if you put it in your mouth and it's hotter than what you would expect, that's real. Your mouth will continue to burn for a while. That's real. You can taste reality. You can smell reality. You can touch reality. You can hear reality, and you can see reality. But normally, we don't live our lives that way. Normally, we're not seeing what's real. We're not listening to what's real. We're not tasting or touching or smelling what's real. We're too busy thinking about stuff. We're making stuff up. That's the sixth sense. Now, a lot of people, when they hear Buddhism for the first time about the sixth sense is the mind, they get all excited about, oh, there's something new here. The answer is no, that in fact, the mind and what's made up in the mind is generally not real. We mostly spend our time in delusion. We mostly spend our time thinking about the stuff that we've gotten from the world that is generally not real. Because why? Because that came out of the mind of somebody who was more interested in what they were thinking about than actually observing what's real. And what's real is just real. This is an important point. Let me get this straight. What's real is actually just real. It's not good and it's not bad. It's real. And all the good and all the bad is stuff we make up. My favorite story I actually got from Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, that he was reading a bit from the Bible and he came upon the story of Adam and Eve, and he had a completely different take on it. When Christianity talks about the story of Adam and Eve, they talk about the first man, they talk about a rib, they talk about a talking snake, they talk about an apple. But in fact, that's one of the things that I generally ask people. What did Adam and Eve eat? What did they eat? Ross, what did Adam and Eve eat?
They ate, I don't know, they didn't need to eat, didn't they? Weren't they sort of heavenly creatures, according to
Well,
the
the
Bible?
Christians have fussed over that for centuries, thinking that it was an apple that they ate or some sort of fruit, maybe a fruit cocktail, maybe a smoothie. But actually, what they ate was the fruit of the, when we talk about the word fruit, we use the word both as a kind of a vegetable, or we use the word fruit in the sense of result, like the fruit of the loom, the fruit of your labor, the fruit of your loin. This is the kind of word that they're using when they ate the fruit. That means that they had to put up with the results.
But doesn't, someone like Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, who I've never met, but, obviously sounds very, very wise, when he's reading the Bible, his perception of the Bible would be a lot different to somebody who hasn't reached those attainments.
Well, no, it's not a matter of reaching any attainments. What it's a matter of is he actually is reading what's there, as opposed to getting all the Bible gunk that all the Bible people have been saying about it. Most of the Westerners, they have heard only a kind of a Christianized version. And also another way of looking at it is that it's a terrible translation, eating of the fruit. What fruit did they eat then? What results did they have to put up with? Michael, do you know the answer to that? Not Mickey, Michael. Edward, do you know?
They ate of the tree of knowledge, right? So
Actually, it doesn't say tree. People have thought because it's a fruit, it must be a fruit tree. Actually, what they ate was the fruit, the benefit, or the result of knowledge of good and evil. We can just use the word of knowledge of good and bad. In other words, they lived in a paradise so long as they saw it a paradise. But when they started finding good things in the paradise and started finding bad things in the paradise, that's when they destroyed the paradise. That you yourself live in a kind of a paradise, but we judge it. It's good and it's bad here and there. And when there's good and evil, that is not real. That's stuff that we make up. I like it and I don't like it. That in fact, almost all laws, rules, rituals, everything that ever came that way comes not from reality, it comes from our feelings. If we like something, we want it. If we like something and want it, it must be good. If we don't like something, if we're afraid of something, then we try to push it away, and therefore it must be bad. So good and bad is based upon liking and not liking, and the connection between the two is always ignorance. In other words, we're not watching what we're doing. We're making stuff up. What do we make up? Good and bad, rights and wrongs. And reality is just reality. Ross, you got your hand up.
It was just more of a comment. It was like I always felt the parable or the story of Adam and Eve, there was something in it, because there must have been a point in our evolution where we didn't have this mind that was constantly judging, and then it just started to happen. So there must have been a time on this planet where we did live like that, where we looked at things without discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
That was
exactly. Guess what? We were taught to do that, and now in modern times, we're taught that from everybody around us. All of our parents, all of our teachers, all of our aunts, uncles, older siblings, all of them have caught the disease of good and bad, and they teach that disease like a mind worm to every little child. That's what's wrong with society is that it's not judged as good enough. The reality, a paradise, it's judged as this is good and this is bad. Edward, you got your hand up.
Yeah, is there wisdom in seeing things as harmonious and non-harmonious, but not good and bad?
Well, you can change the word from harmonious and non-harmonious to actually duality and unity. All right. So unharmonious means it's out of tune. It's not in harmony. It's a discord. It's hard on the ears. We don't like it. And harmony means in tune, in accordance, at one-ment, at unity. So what we're actually looking for, and this is something that was that's in the suttas taught by the Buddha, is that the word samadhi, which is translated into English as concentration, actually doesn't mean that at all. In a way, the word samadhi is exactly opposite to the word concentration. Concentration means to get down to the bare essentials, to throw everything out and to come down and get really tight. The example that I commonly use is frozen concentrated orange juice. They used to advertise it years ago. Half the television ads were for frozen concentrated orange juice. And guess what? Nobody drinks frozen concentrated orange juice. They've taken the water out, I guess, for transportation purposes. But when you drink that, what do you do with it? You make it back samadhi again by putting in the essential ingredient of water. You make it whole again. That frozen concentrated orange juice is like the orange juice is here and the water's been taken out. Okay, so that's disharmony. It's not harmonious. Bringing things back together again. The same thing is true about good and bad. Good and bad means that you put good over here and bad over there, and that's the duality. As opposed to the reality is that things are not good and bad, they just are. There's a harmonious nature to reality. Now, another way of thinking about it is based upon Sigmund Freud and Eric Berne. They break the mind into three groups. Id, super ego, and ego is the way that Freud talked about it, making a lot of people confused. And then Eric Berne made it much more simple by having parent, adult, and child. And this is really valuable and useful for us as practitioners of the Dhamma, because the Buddha actually talks about this just in different language. And so basically he uses the word Silabhata Paramasa in the sense of all we are attached to, all the laws, rules, rituals, way things are supposed to be, all the goods and bads and shoulds and woulds and diets and sobrieties and all these kind of dualities. And the way to handle that is to stop judging things, stop having criteria, stop having standards. Now, the word Silabhata Paramasa in Eric Burns' language is the parent ego state. In other words, everything that you've learned since you were a child, all of the woulds, shoulds, coulds, you're supposed to do this, it ought to be that way, all of your ideals, all of your concepts would be then placed into this state that we would call the superego or the parent. And then the child is our actual deeper nature in the sense of our DNA, our instincts, what we like, what we don't like, and basically all of our feelings. What we like and don't like is based upon whether we see it as pleasurable or dangerous. And then there is the third, and that is what Eric Berne calls the adult. And what we can think of the adult is actually with our senses seeing things the way that they actually are. Now, often inside of the human mind, there's a dialogue between the parent and the child. And the parent is saying, oh, you ought to go clean up your room. Oh, you ought to go on a diet. Oh, you ought to have a job. Oh, you ought to get up now. Oh, you ought to do this. You ought to do that, based upon all of these rules and standards and whatnot. And then the child's response to that is, I don't want to. I don't want to get up now. I don't want to go on a diet. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Anything that the parent tells the child to do, the child says no, generally. This is a duality of being told to do and either doing it or not doing it, rebelling against it and not doing it, or doing it because you were told to do it and then not like doing it. Not liking it. Hello, Daniel.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Dhammarato.
So there is the duality. The duality is in the parent and in the child, and the unification, the unity, the harmony is what's actually real, not what you want or not what things ought to be, but what's real. And so this is actually what we're going to be practicing. Normally, then, these rites, rules, rituals, what we want, like and don't like, the Buddha would call that, refer to it as unwholesome thoughts. Our whole society is based in an unwholesome system, unwholesome politics, unwholesome business, greed. Rich people are rich because they are greedy for money and they'll hurt anybody to get more money. They'll screw with politics, they'll screw with Supreme Courts, they'll do anything they can to get more money. Why? Because they're under the delusion that happiness and safety and well-being comes from money. And yet it doesn't. That's not true. That's a duality. More money will make me happy. The way that we're actually going to see that in Buddhism, practicing correctly according to the teaching of the Buddha, is to see that kind of stuff as duality, as unwholesome, and to make a change to it by coming back to the reality. And the reality is, right now, you're okay. Jordan, right now, you're safe. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, why do we have so many thoughts about all the dangers and things that could happen and go wrong, when in fact reality is that you're okay?
Yeah, that's what we learn to do.
Yeah,
So,
we were learned, we
yeah,
were
it's probably not
taught.
the best way to go about seeing reality. Yeah.
So when we see that we're having thoughts about what problems are there, the answer to that is we're okay even if we don't fix it. Things are good enough the way that they actually are. And so this is actually what we need to practice, because in the heat of the moment, when we're out in the world, we're more than likely going to be taking on the world. That if, for instance, if you're watching a video from some news broadcast, CNN or MSNBC or NBC or Fox News or Midas Touch or whatever it is that you're watching, you're going to feel the way they want you to feel. If they're angry and hot, they will make you angry and hot. That's their job. And they want to make you angry and hot so that you'll continue to watch them being angry and hot. Even all of the comedy shows now have become political, that we laugh and joke at what we normally would be angry and hot about. So the right way to handle that stuff is to turn it off and come to the new station, the station of wisdom, which would be everything is okay. Everything is fine. Everything is already all right. Not a problem in the world. But we got to practice this because we're in such a habit of seeing negativity, seeing good and bad, seeing rights and wrongs, seeing things as unharmonious and need to be tuned. A way of saying it is that you spent your whole life talking yourself into feeling bad. Now it's time to start talking to yourself into feeling good. That's your option. Come out of the unwholesome and start thinking about wholesome. Now, it's a good idea that we do this off in seclusion, but a particular meditation posture, a particular time, like an hour, waiting for the bell to ring. Most people, in fact, in these meditation retreats are unhappy. They're wanting something. Many of them are wanting enlightenment. They're wanting whatever is being sold to them by the meditation retreat people, the teachers, or whatever. Oh, come to our retreat, eat our food and pay for it, and then give me money. That's what these retreats are all about. And so, in fact, the only time that people are really happy is at the last day of the retreat. Oh, I'm glad that retreat's over. And this is what we find, is that retreats don't make people happy. What we need to do, if you're going to do a retreat, don't listen to anything the retreat people have to say, and just sit there with the thought of, wow, I don't have any place to go. There's nothing to do. I can just sit here and just be happy. The reality is that there's no place to go and nothing to do. I can just sit here and be happy. And if my legs start to hurt, I can move my posture so that the body becomes comfortable again. The Buddha was really big on comfort. When he said, go to the empty hut or to the foot of a tree, he didn't say to sit there long enough to start pain. That's not what the Buddha was about. He wasn't teaching people to sit in pain. He was teaching them, in fact, to come out of their pain, to come out of physical pain, to come out of mental pain, and to be okay, to be all right with the way things actually are. So this is one of the major problems with the practice of meditation is that people are not practicing anapanasati. They're not practicing the Eightfold Noble Path. What they're practicing is what they have already been practicing for their whole life, which is basically waiting for the bell to ring or waiting to get something, because what we've got right now is not good enough. Ross, you got your hand up again.
Yeah, it's just another observation. I remember last week I took my son to the park, and I was watching this little girl, you know, have a great time going up the ladders, and then, you know, going down the slide. She was just having such a good time, and then a mum decided to teach her how to climb the ladder and how she should position herself when she goes down the slide. And then when she tried it again after her mum had taught her, she just looks so confused and sad, because now she's been instructed on how to do it. But then,
You got to do it right. You got to do
Yeah.
it according to the way that you were told. You can't do it because you love doing it.
exactly. And then I thought, well, this is probably how I've experienced meditation, because, you know, throughout my experience with meditation, I've been given an instruction on how to do it. When it's not, you can't instruct someone to meditate. It's got to be a feeling or a being of being in it. It's like someone, if it's like telling someone, if you have never swept the floor with a broomstick, it's like giving somebody a piece of paper and saying, these are the instructions on how to pick up a broomstick and clean the floor. You've got to move your leg in, your leg out. They're never going to do it. So, you know, it's like the instruction is actually the hindrance.
Yes. Yes, exactly. The instruction, you're using the word instruction, and another word to use would be the rules, the way you're supposed to do it. And the way that you're supposed to do things, including practicing meditation, is exactly the problem. Daniel, you got your hand up.
Yes, can you hear me clearly? Because sometimes
Yes.
this microphone. Okay. So actually, this is a good topic for me, because I just finished a 7-day retreat. Because at my monastery, the monks join the retreat from time to time. They've got like a 7-day retreat each month. And what I really noticed was, even though I already knew I was just going to practice my own way, that just the fact that I had to sit in the meditation hall and sit with the others, it really got me into this attitude of having to do something, having to read something, because that's like the attitude that's kind of given to you, because that's what everybody's trying to do. So then I really saw like, oh, it's so much nicer to just hang out instead of doing a retreat, even though there is some value, of course. But you get into striving so easily, and I really had to like consciously just change that from like, I don't have to meditate. So
Right. You're actually, meditation then is doing something, following somebody's instructions. And the right way to handle it is by recognizing what's in your mind, including following instructions and rebelling against those instructions, going along with it and not liking those instructions, etc., like that, is unwholesome. But we've been practicing it unwholesomely for so many years that we think that that's the right way to do it, is just continue on with the unwholesome. But in the Sutta 117 in the Majjhima Nikaya, called the Great 40, the Buddha talks about the Eightfold Noble Path in the sense of waking up, looking at what you're doing, and making a change for the better. In this regard, taking unwholesome thoughts out and putting wholesome thoughts in. An example of that would be when I have an unwholesome thought about cruelty or wanted to get even or any of things like that, I would say, aha, I see that. That aha, I see that is changing that act of thoughts of cruelty into aha, I could see it. Now, most people, when they're practicing meditation, especially with the noting, when they see that thought of cruelty, they say, oh no, I'm not supposed to have thoughts of cruelty. In other words, now they're having yet another unwholesome thought. Oh no, I've done something wrong. And the right way to handle it instead is, aha, I can see that. Congratulate yourself for being able to see what you're doing, because if you can't see it, you can't change it. And if you can congratulate yourself for seeing it, that's a major wholesome change right there. So start to practice congratulating yourself for every unwholesome, wrong thing, bad thought, unwholesome thought that you have. When you can see it, you can say, hot dog, I caught that. Wow, I can do this. This is what we're shooting for, is to come into a state where we can feel safe and secure and comfortable. And if we can feel safe and secure and comfortable, then we can come into the state of satisfaction. Now, that's what the Buddha teaches. He teaches dissatisfaction, dukkha, and the end of dissatisfaction, which would be the Pali word sukha. But we have to practice being in a state of sukha, because we're generally in the state of being dissatisfied, wanting things to be different, being out of tune, out of touch, in duality. And the way that we gain that in tuneness is by saying, hot dog, I can see that I was out of tune. I can do this. Begin to have a positive point. So when we have that safe, secure, and comfortable, that comfortable part has also to be in the body. And yet many meditation retreats, they want you to practice a long time to get you uncomfortable so that you can look at the discomfort, hoping that if you can see the discomfort and see that you've made that discomfort, you'll stop making yourself uncomfortable. The little joke is that the guy went to the doctor and says, doctor, every time I do this, my elbow hurts. And the doctor says, well, stop doing that so your elbow won't hurt. Okay, so if your body is hurting, sitting in the meditation hall for a long time, stop doing that. Stop doing things that make you uncomfortable and start doing things that make you comfortable. An example of that would be to stand up, to move your legs around. They even talk about it in the meditation hall. Oh, you're not supposed to stretch your legs out front. It's impolite to point your feet towards the teacher. In other words, they do things to make you uncomfortable. That's what a retreat is all about, is if it can make you uncomfortable enough, then you can see that you're making yourself uncomfortable, and then you'll stop doing it. Well, why don't you do that the first 10 minutes of the retreat and get up and walk out of that retreat? Well, I'm glad I'm comfortable now. I'm out of that retreat. Remember that these retreats are coming from people in the mentality of the world. They talk to you like as if they were a news broadcaster, telling you all the problems. And the answer to that is stop having problems. When you have a problem in the mind, recognize, aha, I made up a problem. Aha, I'm in duality. I'm in good and bad. That I've got a problem, something is bad. When we can see that, we can say, aha, I can see that I'm making a problem, when in fact reality is that there's no problem. So we can start having language for ourselves, like wholesome words would be, everything is okay. Everything is all right. Nothing to fear. No worries. No place to go. Nothing to do. Everything is all right. Everything is fine. Wow, I don't have to go anyplace right now. Wow, I can just sit here and be comfortable and to be happy. And this is not something that they'll teach you in retreat. Another point that was made recently is about the Brahma Viharas, which actually is basically the one of the words for metta, and that metta is taught in the sense of may all beings be happy. Jordan, have you ever heard that term, may all beings be happy?
I've heard that, yeah.
Yes, okay. Guess what? You can't make all beings be happy. That's a grandiose. That's a superlative. Even there is a thing called the Bodhisattva vow. Harry, have you heard about the Bodhisattva vow?
Yes,
All
actually,
right.
yeah, some of the Theravada tradition have to disavow in order to get the attainment. That's what I understand.
Right. Okay. Well, guess what? The Bodhisattva vow is a lie. May all beings be happy. May all beings become enlightened before me. Can you imagine that there's 10,000 bodhisattvas left in the world and all of the rest of them are enlightened now? And you got 10,000 bodhisattvas, every one of them fighting with each other, saying, no, you go first. No, you go. I'm going to be the big dude. I'm going to be the last one in. Not recognizing that, in fact, whatever that means is that it's a two-way door. It's not a one-way street. Once you go in, no, the monks are actually in the morning, they're helping people, and in the afternoon, they're sitting and doing nothing. You can move back and forth. In fact, you can't stop moving back and forth. Mostly, we're outside wanting in. But when we practice anapanasati, what we're actually practicing is that I'm already in. Everything is okay. Everything is fine. Not a worry in the world. No place to go. Not even through that gate or that door that the bodhisattvas have in their mind. It's just a mental image. So this idea of metta, of may all beings be happy, is false. It's grandiose. The question to start is, hey, are we having fun now? Isn't this good enough right now? If we begin to have the attitude that things are good enough, things are fine the way that they are right now, then you can take that out of your seclusion and start to practice that out in the world. So when you run across all these people that need to be saved, need enlightenment, you can't make them safe. You can't make them enlightened. What you can do is to smile. Give them a little bit of your joy. Instead of saying, may all beings be happy. And in fact, the reality is that you can't even affect anybody who's not within 50 feet of you. I know that we have the internet, and I see that a lot of people here, when they're listening to what we're talking about, they have a lot of joy. It's infectious. When you're joyful, it spreads. So if you are joyful around other people, you are affecting them in a positive way, but don't expect them to be as joyful as you are, as often as you are, because you practiced that. And in fact, one of the really important points to make here is that within the concept of the Four Noble Truths, the first one being that dissatisfaction exists. I don't know why that's even so important, but it really is in Buddhism, because every one of you know that you do have dissatisfaction. It does exist. But a lot of people pontificate on that, coming up with the idea that life itself is dukkha. There was even a bumper sticker that I saw that life is shit and then you die. But life itself is not dukkha. That in fact, if you had a gun to your head, or let us say that you were standing on a bridge about to jump off, notice how when people are committing suicide that they hesitate and they hesitate and they hesitate. They really don't want to do it. Everybody wants to live. It's part of our instinct. So if we really do want to live, then how could life itself be dissatisfying? It's not life itself that's dissatisfying. There's a cause for this dissatisfaction. And that cause is not some tsunami. It's not some will of God. It's not something happened at school. It's not I got fired. It's not I lost my house. It's not anything to do with the outside world. It has to do with our own greed, our own dissatisfaction, our own made up stuff based upon the rules of right and wrong. Like I lost my job, I got fired, right? Okay, let's take that one. We see that as bad because we think that we need the job. Another way of looking at it is, hot dog, I'm free now. I don't have to go to that job anymore. But we don't think of it like that. We think of it as it's something bad. So, can we stop seeing things as good and bad? Yes, we can, but we have to practice it. We have to recognize that we have a choice about seeing things as good and bad versus seeing things the way that they really are. And the way things that really are is okay. It's just nice. It's actually a paradise. Can you get used to the fact that you're in a paradise without judging it as good and bad? Because by doing so, you destroy it. Ross, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, most of my dissatisfaction comes when I'm dealing with people, other people.
Mm-hmm. That's right. When you're alone, the only dissatisfaction that exists is the satisfaction we're making up right now. But when we're around other people, we have to put up with all of the dissatisfactions that all those people are making up right here, right now. Getting away from the world, getting away from what they call the maddening crowd is a very good thing to do. But the problem that people have when they get away from the maddening crowd is they were mad when they left, and they're now their own maddening crowd.
Yeah.
So we have to practice to stop listening to all the crap that we're hearing from all of the media and all of those people listening to media and all those people who listen to Aunt Susie's and all of that kind of stuff, and start having good conversations with ourselves, like everything is okay, everything is fine, no place to go. Start having really good, wholesome thoughts, one after another after another. That's the way to handle it, Ross. Is that you're when you get away far from the maddening crowd, recognize that the maddening crowd you brought with you.
What do you do when you're married and you got 3 kids, though?
Be happy with them. Okay. Make your wife happy by making her the boss. Let her make all the decisions, and you can just sit there happily with whatever she does. Let your life become a paradise with 3 kids. Watch them fight each other and say, hey, yeah, I like that.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yes, it's your choice about how you feel about what the family is doing. And actually, the Buddha recommends to householders to just sit down and do nothing and let the wife do all the work. Let the wife do all the decisions. Let her be the boss. Let her choose what she wants. Anything that she does is okay. If we can live our lives like that, life will become a joy. She'll like you for it. She'll love you for it. But if you keep fighting with her and contradicting her and trying to get your way, your life and her life become a hell.
Well, I won't
and
have
you
any.
made it up.
I won't have any money left if I let her have it all.
You're going to be okay without the money. Your wife's going to be okay about the money. If she spent all the money, she can't blame you for having no money.
Yeah, nice. All right.
And what if
done.
she wants to take you all sorts of places?
Oh, well, no, well,
Oh,
shopping.
I'm okay
Definitely.
right now. You go do
George,
what
what-
you want to do. Years ago, my wife stopped asking me, do you want to go out? Do you want to go to the buffet? Do you want to go to the restaurant? No, I'm okay. You go have fun. You go spend the money. That in fact, you'll eat for half price because I'm not there. So don't
Right.
go with them. Don't go wherever they want to go. If they want to go to the movie, oh, enjoy that movie. Go have fun. Eat a lot of popcorn. Enjoy yourself. I'm okay. I don't have to go. I'm already all right. I don't have to be entertained by a movie. I can sit here and twiddle my thumbs and entertain the touch between this thumb and that thumb. This is good advice from the Buddha. By the way, it's in the Dinga Nikaya, Sutta number 31. A lot of people wouldn't believe that, but this is actually the teaching of the Buddha, is for householders to just give up. Let the wife do everything that she wants to do. Your only job is to smile and support her. Nod yes for everything she wants to do.
Mm. Good.
Because you know why? She'll come back and ask your advice. And now you can give your advice and she'll take it or leave it. But generally, when she comes to your advice, it's because she's not sure of what she wants. But when you say, this is what I want, she'll do it that way. But if you come and tell her this is what you wanted to do, she's going to say no.
Mm. Correct. Yep.
Because now she sees you as daddy, she sees you as the parent, and she's going to rebel against anything that the parent says. So stop ordering her around and just let her do whatever she wants to do. This is the advice of the Buddha. And why can you do that? Because you're already okay. You've been practicing that you're okay. You've been practicing that you're going to be happy and fine no matter what your wife does.
Mm.
At one time, you trusted her enough to marry her. Why can't you trust her now?
Mm.
She's older and wiser because she's been putting up with your wisdom all this time. So getting back to that topic now of metta, when we talk about it in the sense of, wife, I want you to be happy. May all beings, including you go be happy. She's not going to do it that way. The only thing that you can do is go find your own happiness and then spread that joy to her. This is what the practice that the Buddha taught. This is what it's all about, is get rid of the unwholesome thoughts by being happy about seeing the unwholesome thoughts. When I say get rid of it, I don't mean it because they're bad, but get rid of it because you're happy. Get rid of the unwholesome thoughts by saying, aha, I see you, unwholesome thought. And now that I see you as unwholesome, I can change my mind to a wholesome state. And this is how we practice over and over again. And you can do that any moment you think of it. So one of the most basic of the skills is to remember to be here now, to remember to look at what you're thinking. And this is why I started the conversation, is for the beginners, is to remember to look at what you're saying, because what you're saying is a whole lot bigger and easier to see than what you're thinking. Thinking happens really fast, but talking takes a little more time, gives you the opportunity to see what you're saying. So practice that. That would be a meditation, is to start watching your language. I have a story about this. The story is a baby shower. Mickey, I know you know what a baby shower is, right? When the woman is pregnant and about to give birth, all the women in the town will gather a present for the baby and give it and call it a baby shower, right? And oftentimes they get together, they play a game. And the game is that you can't use the word baby. They only have one word. You can't use the word baby. And so all the women at the baby shower then are sitting around talking, and every minute or two, some woman will use the word baby, and everybody claps. I see that. Okay. So this is the way that you start with your own language, is figure out for yourself unwholesome words that you use, grandiosities, words like unbelievable, words like blow your mind, words like unbelievable. Let's see, what was the other one? Is incredible. All of these words, go figure out a few words that you say that you don't mean. And then make a short list of words that you're going to start avoiding. One word that you can actually, if you want to put on that list, because you know the Buddha was really big on becoming selfless and not being selfish. So talking about yourself, I did this and I did that, and that's my toy and things like that. So words like I, me, and mine, you can begin to watch your language so that you can remove that. And when you say, I'm going to town, you can say, aha, see that? And you can make the change of going to town now and take the I out of your language. Start becoming mindful. Start watching your language.
That's incredible. Why is that a word you shouldn't use?
Because if it's incredible, that means that it's not credible. When somebody says this is incredible, they're actually announcing they're about to lie to you.
Yeah.
Because it's not credible.
It's kind of used in a different way though. Like,
I know, but listen
amazing.
to that kind of language, because they're actually wanting you to say, well, I will believe you. It is used that way. That's what the word means. So be careful
Fair enough.
about using that kind of language. Figure out your own language, figure out your own words, and as make a short list, and then and it's the really common words that you use, and stop using those words. Catch yourself. Start watching your own language. Start seeing the language of I, me, and mine. Incredible, unbelievable. The words that we have that are grandiose. Like an example would be, I feel terrible. Well, terrible is a great big grandiose word. Why can't you say instead, I feel okay? That in fact, almost all the grandiosity comes from trying to describe feelings, that our feelings are really important to us. And so when we describe our feelings to someone, we almost always is grandiose about it. It's hard to say, oh, well, there's a little bit of sensation on the leg. No, we say the leg hurts. I'm in pain here. When in fact, it's nothing but just a sensation. And you don't like it. The problem is not the sensation, it's the problem is you don't like it. And when we don't like something, that's a big important thing to us when we're ignorant. But when we can become wise to it, when we can say, aha, I see that I'm grandiose. I see that I'm using the word pain, when in fact, it's just that I don't like it.
What
So
about
this is
words like I feel damn amazing, for example? Do you consider that like grandiose? Like using words like
generally
damn or
that in fact a much better word would be wow. Use the superlatives lightly. Okay. Expletives. That's another one. Take the expletives out of your language. Put that on your list. Expletives. Like what the fuck? Oh my God. Take that language out of your vocabulary. Start watching the language that you use. Mickey, what are the kind of language for you that we're talking about here? You got to make up your own list.
One I heard yesterday was, "This is unbearable."
Unbearable, right. Well, you are bearing up. The actuality is that you can handle that. And a more important thing is that if you cannot bear it, then why don't you just sit it down? Wow, I'm glad I don't have to carry that around. Another word, one word, shit. What is that? Why can't we just say, I'm uncomfortable with that, or I don't like it? My dad was quite commonly, he would say, God damn it. When in fact, the reality is that I don't like that. I'm uncomfortable with it. So start taking the superlatives that you're using out of your language. Be happy that you can catch that kind of language so that you can start using language that's more correct, more real. Jordan, what's your favorite words that you're going to put on the list here?
It's like I wish I didn't have to do that.
I wish I didn't have to do that. The answer to that is I'm going to do it and I don't like it. Why can't I do it and like it?
Yeah, yeah. Why can't I do it and like it?
Yeah, why
Yeah.
can't we just do whatever it is and like it? Even if it's a huge mountain to climb, we can like the first step.
Yeah, it's like it's
And
hard
when
to
we
come up
get
with a
tired, we
reason
can sit
why.
down and rest. Go ahead.
It's hard to, like, if you ask like why wouldn't I want to do it? It's like hard to come up with like a reason why. It's like a better way of phrasing it than saying, "Oh, I wish I didn't have to do that."
Perhaps it's that it's a rule that you should do it. And here you are rebelling against the shoulds. That
And
you're
then
in the
there's the
habit
rule
of
there as
rebelling
well.
against how things are supposed to be. So we do it and wish we didn't have to do it. And the thing to change is, well, I can do it, but I have a choice about whether I like it or not. You have a choice about whether you like it or not. You had a choice about whether you were going to do it or not. Why can't you have a choice about whether you like doing it or not? In fact, I'm bringing up now the OK Corral, one of the versions. You know, you have a quadrant. You have this quadrant and that quadrant, and then the lower one. Okay. So think of it like this. On this side, I'm going to do it. And on this side, I'm not going to do it. And that's my choice. Mommy tells me go buy bread from the grocery store, and I say I'm not going to do it. Or we say, yes, I'll go do it. And then we have the other saying, and that is, I don't like it. And mostly what people choose is, I'm going to do it and not like it. So we have that other choice of whether we do it or not, and then are we going to hate it and not like it, or are we going to choose to like it? And what we can do then is start to practice to be in the place of I'll do it and I like it.
I could ask, what do I like about it?
Well, no, not what you
no,
like
not like
about it.
what do I
Just
like
say
about
I
it? Like there's
can like
nothing,
it.
but there is something I like about it. Let's find
Yeah,
something I do like about it instead of
let's
being
find
like, "Oh, I
something
don't
that we
like it."
like. That's
Yeah.
good enough as a start. Begin to change those feelings. Find something that you do like about it. So let's go ahead and finish up here. Let's finish up with that point about start watching your language. Make that your meditation, with air quotes. Start going to your own private baby showers and not use the word baby. Start looking at words like I, me, or mine. Bhikkhu Buddhadasa has the phrase that nothing is worth clinging to as I, me, or mine. So begin to use the words and to see that you're using the words. So does anybody have any last points? Harry, what do you think?
You're muted, Harry.
Yeah, thank you, sir. This is my first time attending this call. The Dhamma you talking, teaching is very practical, doable, and very simple. I really enjoy it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's easy Dhamma.
Yep.
Look at what you're doing and make a change,
Yes, sir.
which would be dukkha, dukkha, nirodha. Easy peasy. All right. Another one that I picked up years ago that I find is a kind of favorite. Don't worry, be happy. When you find yourself confused, you say, I don't need to know that. I can just be happy. Very simple practice. But we need to do it alone. We need to do it often, and we need to do it in a group. We need to find wholesome, noble friends. That's what these calls are really all about. It's not so much that you listened and got entertained by an old fat man in Thailand. It's that we work together, that we put that stuff in practice, that we make friends with each other. We say things nobly. We encourage people to practice correctly rather than discourage them by telling them what they're doing wrong. Instead, invite them to be joyful. Ivan, do you have any comment?
No, I'm really satisfied.
You're really satisfied. How about you, Dhammadas? All right. Jordan, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I just did want to comment that what I learned from last week, like it's actually made a big difference. Like I realized that I didn't actually let myself feel happy for probably years, like actually like really happy. And like yeah, this week I've been happier than I've been in years. So
Right.
like
Keep
it's like
practicing.
it's easy and it's like it works very quickly and I really appreciate you teaching.
Excellent. How about you, Ben Woody? You have any final comments?
I'm gonna cut out. I often say like something makes me feel something when it doesn't. It's just my own way of thinking that makes me. It brings up feelings. So I'm gonna stop using that.
Right. That's a really good point. You make me feel is a lie. Nobody can make you feel anything. You choose the way you feel. Have you ever heard of the cartoon series called The Far Side? It's an old one. The guy stopped doing it 20, 30 years ago. But one of the cartoons was a guy pushing a wheelbarrow that was full of bones. And he was pushing that wheelbarrow down a narrow passageway of a cave where there were skeletons and dead people hanging from the walls around him. And while this guy was pushing the wheelbarrow, he was whistling a happy tune. And when he would pass by one of these corpses hanging from the wall, he says, "Hi, y'all. You having a good day? I see you're hanging out there. And behind him were the devils with their red suits and their pitchforks. And one devil said to the other, we're not getting through to this guy, are we? See, the depiction was that he was in hell and yet he could still feel happy. It was his choice. The devils can do all the work to him, but he still has a choice. They can't get through to him. So wherever you are, if you're in a group of people, like at a, let us say at a school board meeting or whatever, and everybody's yelling and unhappy and having fights in loud language, you can sit there happily. Up to you. You choose the way you feel. The problem is that you choose to feel the way that you're in the habit of feeling. Now you have recognized through these conversations, you've got a choice about how you feel. Choose wisely to feel happy. So does anybody have any last remarks? Okay, Mikey, why don't you take a moment to talk about OSF?
Sure. Yeah, come check out OpenSanghaFoundation.org if you haven't yet. Go ahead and make a profile. We've been asking that people use their real first and last name as well as a real profile picture. One of the key purposes of Open Sangha Foundation is to help connect practitioners with one another and with Watts in the real world. There's also all sorts of things to do on the website. We have a new groups page where you can make your own group and discuss various topics. So yeah, come have fun. It's a good time.
Right. You can make posts. You can see, ask frequently asked questions. You can ask your own frequently asked questions. You can add things to our library. We have a huge PDF file library. Most of it's from Bhikkhu Buddhadasa. But you can add your own PDFs. This is an interactive website designed for people to add things to it. We call it Open Sangha Foundation. Open means honest. So be real. Don't sign up as a sock puppet. Sign up with your real name. That, in fact, for yourself, think about it. If you saw somebody, but they had a sock puppet, you probably wouldn't want to make friends with them. But if somebody was real with a real photo and real stuff in their description, then you would probably want to make friends with them. So open means honest. And Sangha means noble Sangha in the sense of this is a community where we support one another. So if you're looking for a teacher, we've got a page for that. If you're looking for Watts, we've got searches. We can search for people. We can search for temples. In fact, we've got thousands, nearly 6,000 people and places. And so we've got an extensive search system. We've got a page of old elders like Achan Samedo and Santikaro and Achan Amaro. And it's good to read their descriptions. We've also got a Bhikkhuni page. People have been complaining for years and years and years about where are women in the Sangha? The answer is they're there. We've got, in fact, a list of nearly 100 Bhikkhunis. We've got huge number of articles about what the Bhikkhunis are doing. So you can't go and have those negative comments about, well, what's the role of women in Buddhism? The answer to that is they're big time. So come and enjoy our website. That, in fact, if you learn it, it'll take you weeks to learn it because it's massive. We've got slideshows with all kinds of old photos. We've got a photo library of nearly 2,000 photos. So I invite you to come and join, make friends, write posts, Do your own blog. If you want to open a blog, you can do that right on Open Sangha Foundation.org. Welcome to all people who are noble in their thoughts. So, thank you all.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time. We'll
Thank
have
you.
a call tomorrow
Yeah.
afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Thank you,
bye-bye.
everybody.
Thanks, Dhammarato.
Bye.